Hey guys, here I'm Chad Kasi. Welcome to another edition of Whiskey Talk. We have a whole cast on stage here with me. I have on my right Brian. I have Nicole, the family lawyer, and I also have Levi to my far left. Welcome to the guys. Welcome to the show, by the way. Today we'll be talking about family law issues, parenting, parent rights as a father, rights for fathers. We have a lot of issues that we deal in court and out of court, or not being able to chance to see our child, or reproduction rights. People have a lot of different issues when it comes to men and children, and how women handle and deal with these issues. So we wanted to address them today, and it's going to be a very, very, very interesting topic. So not further ado, I'm going to go ahead and move this right along. So Levi, you've been wanting to be on this show for a very, very long time. And so I know that you have some very deep-rooted issues about reproduction rights. Can you share some light about that?
Sure, man. I wouldn't say just very deep-rooted. I just have my opinion about it. In reproductive rights, I feel that both men and women should have them. In case of a unplanned pregnancy, and the woman decides that, she doesn't want to have that child, although that man does want to have that child, then what options should that woman have? Should she be forced to have that child, or should she be granted the opportunity to give that child up for adoption, utilize abortion? And also in the case where if a man he doesn't want to have the child. A woman gets pregnant and, he's not ready to be a father, but the woman, wants to have that child. In situations like that, what rights or what options does that man
You don't have one.
Correct.
Right.
And so that's just one of the issues that, I would like to discuss. And I don't think, men alone would be able to accomplish much in that field without the help of women. So I think to be able to hear a woman's point of view on that will definitely be beneficial.
Nicole, you want to say something about that?
You may not like my point of view. May not actually want to hear my point of view. And I don't know that I've actually given a whole lot of thought to it. I think it's obviously for a woman, personal reason. It's a personal choice. And I understand how some men can feel. If they want to keep the child and the woman doesn't, I understand that too. But at the same time, it's kind of like you both got yourselves into that situation, so you kind of knew what happened as a result of what you were doing. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And then I think you have to just, deal with, the outcome how best you can.
So I think you made a really good point. I'm going to get needy and greedy. I'm not going to be cute in this room, but because this is some real issues. So y'all both got each other in this situation, and you both got to figure the situation out, right? This is being grown adults about this matter. So it got to be. I think a lot of men are feeling the stress of it's not a two-way street. It's more of a one-way street, right? I make decisions if I want to keep it or if I want to kill it, right? I have no say-so in that matter. And I think a lot of men have issues. I know some men be like, no, I want a child, right?
A lot of times you may not even know it's even there or an option. So
exactly, right? So is my God-given right to know these things, right? And is my God-given right, if I want to keep them, we need to have a discussion about it. If I want to kill them, we need to have a discussion about it, because it's both of our wrongdoing, it's both of our actions. So my say-so, your say-so can be greater than your say-so.
Can it? It's not like you would be the one having to actually carry this child, have this child, and then turn around and probably raise this child. So, because you're not the one that's actually going to have to endure what you go through to have a child. I'm sure many women feel like you don't really have a say-so with that.
Go ahead.
I think that's that's where reproductive rights come into play. That's one of the reasons why, we have this platform to talk about it. So in that case, I guess the question just would need to be asked, do you feel, I guess in case of a unplanned pregnancy, and that woman does not feel that she's ready to have that child, whether it's because of financial issues, mental issues, even though she had unprotected sex, she's mature enough to know if you have sex, you can possibly get pregnant. With the condom, contraceptives fail all the time. Knowing that, all these risks are in place and you still chose to have sex and you end up pregnant, but you didn't want to have a child, should she still have options to give that child up for adoption or have an abortion? Or should she be held accountable just like men are in these situations and be forced to have that child because she knew what it took and she did it anyway?
She needs options. She should have the right to have options because a lot of things factor into whether or not you decide to have a child. Number one, your age. I mean, what age are you talking about?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
I mean, there may be some health issues that she may have that, for whatever reason, she doesn't want to put herself at risk. It could be financial, like you said. It could be that maybe she's just not at a place that she wants to be. It could be that there really isn't a relationship between she and the man. And it's not going anywhere. It could have been just a one-night stand that just kind of something happened.
I agree with you. I agree with you 100%. She should definitely have options. She should not be forced to become a mother if she's not ready. But do you also feel that way about men when they end up in that same situation? Do you have that grace for men also, or is it just for women?
I can only speak for myself. I mean, I can only speak for, obviously my own personal experiences. And I'm assuming that what you're getting at is that, okay, if the woman decides to have this baby and it's a child that the man doesn't necessarily want to have, but now this child's here, and so now he's going to be forced to take care of this child, financially support this child. I get it. I understand. And maybe that's a conversation you have before you get into that situation. But, it just depends. It kind of depends on
the same
understanding you and
that's the same thing should be told to that woman when she wants to have an abortion. Like you said, like sometimes it may be a one-night stand. Like you having a one-night stand, you end up pregnant. Like you should have thought about that before you had a one-night stand.
Both of y'all should start about it, right?
Thank you.
But both of y'all should talk about it, right?
Correct.
Right.
But she still has options at the end of the day. And
so
that man doesn't have any options.
No options.
Correct.
Okay.
I don't think a woman should be forced, and I also don't think a man should be forced.
Okay. But you're also speaking to a woman who, I agree with you. And if I were to have a child and the man doesn't want to be there and he doesn't want to financially support the child, so be it. Fine. I really don't need it. I can take care of my own child. That's my opinion. And it may be the opinion of a lot of women.
But Nicole, I think
some women may not feel that way.
I think you represent 1%.
I
honestly,
probably do.
Yeah, you represent 1% because 9 times out of 10, I understand exactly what Levi is saying is that, if she gets pregnant and she decides, you know what, I'm making this decision to keep this child, I think, I honestly feel that I should have the right to not be able to financially be obligated to this child, sign my rights away. That should be an option, because if you're going to make this decision on your own, right, without my involvement, and you want me to pay the tab, I think we should talk about this. I think we should. If the end of the day is, I think he should have an option to opt out, and I'm gonna tell you why.
Well, here's the deal.
I'm not trying to be a deadbeat dad, but the day is she gonna be think about having a child with this individual if she's not getting no financial support. Right? She's going to start being more contraceptive and taking birth controls because I don't want to have to raise this child by myself. See, that will weed out a lot of the other BS that's going around the world of opportunities.
You have the option of relinquishing. But in the state of Texas, even if you sign a relinquishment, it doesn't necessarily absolve you from having to financially support the child, though.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm talking about, the financial obligation. If I don't want to be involved in this decision, that should be an option for me to opt out. Now, that's going to put the pressure on her. Do she really want this kid or not? And I don't think it should be the state responsibility either. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is you're going to make this decision to keep this child. I think you should find, I take care of my car, I take care of my house, my dog, the white picket fence, all that's mine, right? Anytime I want to lose it, stop paying for it. It's cool. It's my God-given right,
well,
right?
maybe y'all should have the discussion before you have sex and kind of figure out what's your opinion on this. Look, this is my opinion on it, and maybe you decide you don't have sex.
People change when them emotions get involved.
Correct.
Because I know.
I don't know about no emotions being involved.
Well, I think a lot of times when we look at co-parenting, family court, it's a lot of a lot of the situation come because of selfishness. Because if we're keeping the best interest of the kid at heart, then everything we would do would be in the best interest of the kid. But a lot of times, it's just human nature. I don't think it's more women do it more than men or vice versa. When you got the upper hand, people utilize their privilege. You know what I'm saying? And I think a lot of times it comes in a situation where if I'm mad at you and I can use my privilege to my benefit because of my lack of character or my lack of emotional intelligence or maturity, a lot of times that plays into everything. So a lot of times you have, men not seeing their children or like I look at the situation with the NBA player who was paying like $30,000 a month from a one night stand or something like that. And granted, it was two adults that made a consensual decision. But I guarantee if she knew that $50,000 a month was off the table, it's highly unlikely that she would have the child.
Absolutely.
But I do believe that we got to get to the humanistic aspect of it. And I think sometimes as people, we just need to care more about people. But raising a child is hard with two people that's in love and married. Becoming one.
Are you in education as well?
Yeah.
Okay.
So raising a child is extremely hard for two people just becoming one with different ideologies and the way you were raised. But imagine two people that aren't on the same page, that don't have that emotional connection, that don't have that spiritual connection, and that really just made a rash decision based on their hormones. Now they're put into a situation where they have to raise a child and, power is corrupt and absolute power is absolutely corrupt. So you get somebody with a lack of integrity or that's bitter, and I don't think good things come from it, and ultimately the child is hurt, and
the child feels
because of the way the system has played out. Granted, there has been a lot of progress in family court system. There has been progress from the way it used to be, but at this point, I can understand how a father could be frustrated. I mean, I ain't got the heart. I wouldn't sign him out right away. You know what I'm saying? But I see the frustration because there's fight, flight, and freeze. And a lot of times you get fathers that get blamed because, they haven't got the emotional or the psychological support or learning. Like it's emotionally and financially taxing to fight to see your child. Like for real, like it's really, you go into a dark place, missing your child, just wanting to love on your child. That's like your child. And then financially, the support to even fight for your child, and because of the privilege aspect and the lack of character, I would say in a lot of situations, there's such a big divide, and I think we just got to get back to more accountability and more love for people in general, because in these situations, when people get mad, it's like they trying to hurt that person.
I mean, the system, in my personal opinion, I can be quite honestly, it's set up for men to fail. Because at the end of the day is, if he goes through a financial hardship, he can't afford to financially take care and pay his child support, he's going to jail. He's going to lose his job.
Not necessarily.
His driver's license is going to get revoked.
Not necessarily. See, you're jumping from one end of the spectrum and going all the way to the end. There are things that you can do in order to avoid you getting into that situation where you lose your driver's license, you lose your passport, whatever. You file a modification. You check with your local resources in terms of what you can do. If you lose your job, that's considered a material substantial change in circumstance. That entitles you to have a modification. You don't just have to sit there and let the child support accrue to the point where you can't,
But what if you don't know that?
But the legal,
and a lot of men don't know that. But
I know
it is true.
I didn't know that you could file an enforcement.
Of course you
can. So
can.
my third time of going 5 months without seeing my child, I found out about enforcement.
Yeah.
but then the paper wasn't even filed correctly or whatever. But what I'm saying is, I didn't know that, and it sucks because maybe if I had better finance, I could have probably hired better lawyers or something.
And that's,
you know
that's exactly what you're saying.
I didn't even know.
Is that you have to have income to better fight your situation. Yeah. You got to have income. It's not like you committed a crime, right?
Here's the thing, though. So at least in Texas and Harris County, I can only speak for Harris. Well, I can speak for a lot of the surrounding counties too. But
Fort Bend,
you can, of course, you can go to your local attorney general's office and you can tell them, look, I've lost my job. I need a modification. Now, because of where we are and because our county is so large, it may take them a minute to try to get your paperwork filed and get you into court so that you can actually get some relief. Mm-hmm. But if you don't have the money to go in and say hire a lawyer and file a modification, the Office of Attorney General will do it for you.
Okay,
and that may take 5, 6 months.
I got to say something.
At least 5 to 6 months. Potentially, but I think they're getting better though. I think they're hiring more staff.
And during that time, your child support is still adding up.
However, but when you do that modification and you go in and you file it, it's whenever that person is served or whenever, it actually retroactively goes back and modifies back. You just have to catch it when you're in that situation. So don't wait.
So I got a question. So I personally, in my situation, filed for a decrease through the AG's office because my child's mother filed for an increase during COVID, the beginning of COVID. Nobody's working. We all at home in the house. She filed for an increase.
And imagine.
AG told me I need to file for a decrease. Mm-hmm. I said, what do I need to do? She said, we're going to send you our paperwork to your house, fill it out, put your income on there, and then you send it back to us. We'll try to get a schedule for a review, right? This is what they tell me. Send over, certify it 2 times. Make sure I got a copy and everything. 2 years later, no review.
Still waiting for my
review. Nothing, right? No nothing, right?
But you gotta stay on them. You gotta keep following up. And during COVID, nobody was at work. The OAG wasn't at work.
They called me.
But they had people working from home just like you, like everybody else was at home.
Guess what? Cool. Then it's a pause. Mm-hmm. If the system is the government if it kind of stopped doing business right now, there's a pause. If I did what I'm supposed to do, it's your job to do what you're supposed to do. We all have a duty and obligation. But then don't penalize me.
I understand.
It should not come at my cost.
I get it.
Because I've done what I was supposed to do. So, but my attorney's telling me, well, you didn't go through. You're supposed to hire an attorney to let them file for it. So you didn't do it.
It would have been quicker if you hired an attorney.
But she said that because I didn't file through the court system, then that's why you're in the predicament that you're in. But AG could have told me that information. But if they have the power to increase
AG can't give you legal advice, though.
I agree with that. But if they have a power to review a child support order every 3 years and increase, they should have the power to decrease as well, too.
They do have the power to decrease, and they review it every 3 years for a decrease. But what I'm telling you is that you don't have to wait the 3 years to get your child support reviewed. If you suffer some type of material and substantial change in your circumstance, you're entitled to go and file a modification at that point. You don't have to wait for the 3 years.
There's so much.
If something happens in your life,
I know that. Yeah, I know
you can go and file.
Yeah, but that's the thing about it. The uncertainty was the AG said send the paperwork back to them, not going filed at the courthouse. There's 2 different separate things. All right, I'm filed with the AG because AG is taking my payment. They got my track record. They know everything about me, my Social Security.
And generally, they can do the review, and they will generally file the petition for you. That's why you're going to them and seeking the help to get the modification. Okay. So essentially, you're their customer.
Okay.
So it's on them to actually, do the review. If you don't reach an agreement in terms of lowering your child support, they file the petition with the court. They get both of you served. You get a court date. That's generally how it happens. That's generally how it's supposed to happen. So now in your situation, maybe something messed up. I don't know.
They told me they fell through the cracks.
Generally, that's what's supposed to happen. Okay. And then, when you go to the AG's office to get your modification, obviously it's going to take longer, which is why a lot of times lawyers will tell you, look, it's a whole lot quicker if you go hire a private attorney, have them file your modification. We use private process service. We get the person served. We get you in court. We ask for temporary orders. How much does that
normally cost on average?
Maybe it depends on the lawyer.
Maybe $5,000 to $6,000.
It could be anywhere from a $3,500 retainer, upwards of a $5,000 retainer. Shouldn't be that much because all you're doing is modifying child support. Right. The problem is, though, is when you open that door to modify your child support, you also open up the door for the other side to modify things too. So, for instance, if you want to modify your rights and duties, or you want to modify your access and possession, you open the door for that whole entire order to be modified.
Right, and for me, that's a good thing because actually, I really is fighting for what I originally wanted was joint custody of my child.
Joint managing conservatorship is a presumption in Texas. So you're presumed to be a joint managing conservator, barring
joint custody.
Joint managing conservatorship. There's a difference between.
I want joint custody. I want to have equal rights. I want to pick them up every other week.
You may be confusing joint custody with shared custody.
Shared custody, yeah.
Because joint custody that's the joint managing conservatorship, and it's just terms of art. Right. Shared custody is this big thing that a lot of fathers, I think, are pushing for, so that essentially you're having your child equal time. So perhaps you get the child 1 week on, 1 week off.
And how feasible that, as a legal counsel and family law, to get that happen? I know it happens, and I think that's the kind of one of the reasons why we in this room, because typically you can get a deadbeat mom, ain't got nothing going for herself, they have issues and everything else, and she still have the custodian parent. And then you have a good fit father over here that is still the non-custodian parent, right? And he's, you know what I'm saying? So, like I was saying this earlier, I think it should be a standard share order that automatically. I think a man should have the right to opt out if he does not want to be a shared co-parenting. I think if he say, hey, my work schedule or my lifestyle doesn't allow me to be a shared parent, so I'm going to be the non-custodian parent. I think that should be a standard order. That would be a fair situation that men can see that works. That's a fair system that works.
Okay. So, even though I can't really say what's going to happen, because right now we have a legislative session going on, and as you know, I work in the legislature. Last session, because this, like I said, there's been this whole big push for shared custody, So shared custody is not currently in the family code, okay? Shared custody is a type of, access and possession that parents can agree to enter into. But there are a lot of factors that kind of play into that. For instance, what's the proximity between the parents' houses? Courts generally want you to kind of live in close proximity. They don't want you going, you living in Fort Bend and your baby's over here in Harris County, and you got the baby going all across, the world.
So what if one of the parents is willing to make that sacrifice? Because essentially that's
it takes both parents to agree to go into this type of arrangement.
Agree, but what if one parent is extremely willing to cooperate and do whatever it takes for shared parenting, but one parent is opposition to it? Why?
Well, like I said, it's not currently in the code. That would have to be something that's actually in the code. And what we did last session to address that and to make it a lot more fair across the board is we made it where the expanded visitation schedule is now the presumption. So with an expanded visitation schedule, you're getting Thursday overnight until Monday morning when the child goes back to school. And essentially what it boils down to is that you both are actually having this child equally. I mean, it's pretty close. It's not exactly a week on, week off, but it's in terms of the time that's spent, between the two parents, it pans out to be pretty equal. Okay. And so that was what we did to kind of address this whole shared custody, because I think one of the misconceptions that people have, or at least I will say the non-custodial parent has, is that, okay, if we're doing this shared custody arrangement, I don't have to pay child support. And that's just not true. The courts have the right and the obligation and duty and the discretion to order one of the parents to pay child support. In fact, courts even have the right to force a custodial parent to pay child support if they believe that that's in the best interest of the child. So just because you have a shared custody arrangement doesn't mean you're not going to pay child support.
Okay, so let me ask you this question. I'm going to be quite frankly honest. So I've always had bedrooms for my kids, always. Come over, always have a bedroom. My bills don't change where they come or not come, right? Only thing that changed is my lights and my food and clothing, right? If I'm doing the same thing she's doing or more, should my financial responsibility go down?
I mean, in terms of what's in the law right now in Texas, that's not how we do it.
That's what I'm saying. So that's why I'm having this conversation right now, because that's not fair. If I share majority of the financial responsibility or equal, then I think it should be a shared financial pool for both parents.
But it also depends on your income versus the other parent's income.
So
you may have a greater income than the other parent. You may have the ability to do a whole lot more for this child than the other parent does. A lot of that goes into how a judge determines what they do with the shared custody.
So what about Cause my thing, I think we just kind of like, because what we've seen, we've been socializing to seeing men as weekend child support, women as custodial parents.
Not necessarily, but I hear what you're saying.
A lot of people are kind of they're coming into a new way of thinking, especially with
one second. I want to interrupt you. I gotta say this one point. I'm gonna let you get to the floor.
Okay.
So if I lose this, we're gonna go right past this. So, in other states, in child support situation, they do a financial pool, right? Based on your income, you pay in based on your income. Both parents pay into the system, right?
Some states will actually consider both parents' income in terms of what they determine is going to be the child support.
Right.
Yes, that is true.
That's true. To me, that's a more fair system than just, we're gonna tax you.
But Chad, Texas is just not there yet. Okay, we still under the system that we're under. We're not Louisiana. We're not Georgia. I mean, there are states that look at both parties' income. Texas is not doing that at this point.
Why is that?
Because the legislature hasn't changed the law to do that.
Okay, so
if you want your legislator to change the law, then you need to reach out to your state representative or your state senator.
Is that my state representative
ask
or the
them to
Attorney
do
General?
that. No, it's just your state rep or your state senator.
Okay.
They're the legislature. They're the ones who determine what laws are being made for the state.
Okay. I'm sorry.
No, I was just saying, a lot of we're getting more acclimated. Like we got these big pushes for fathers and all of this stuff, and we're just conditioned into seeing mothers as the main nurturers, which mothers are nurturers, but society has changed, and it's not like I said, I hate the whole situation because it's so divisive, and it's not about confusion and divisiveness. Is about coming together for the best interest of the child. But what I'm saying is I've seen situations where it's always like the father's always just the weekend guy and then paying child support. And you got a lot of fathers who are very capable, very loving. And then you have a lot of mothers who, society has changed. Women are like look at the women's suffrage movement. At one point, women couldn't vote, they couldn't get bank accounts, they couldn't go to school. Women are thriving. You got a lot of women thriving. And I've seen multiple situations where because of the institution, the way things are set up, it could be a man with all the free time, clean record, got all the things together. And then the mother is just presumed to be that, the custodial parent. And it's just a very taxing and tough situation because we haven't been socialized into seeing that. What I love to see, by modeling when I see young kids, I like to see the importance of young men who are able to express their emotions and be, emotionally intelligent and learning how to love on a child and stuff like that. Because the truth be told, we look at it different if it was a male babysitter. But like a lot of times we look at men like, he watching his kids, or it's just like a lot of things that we're socially, like we said, like we were talking to somebody about racism and somebody that was white was saying things, we'd be checking and getting offended. But a lot of times we listen to how women talk about men regarding child care and loving on the child or parenting. We have a lot of misnomers that I think that we need to unlearn so we can relearn a different way and respect. And there's a lot of accountability on men that we got to step up. But also, like, why you got to fight so hard just to see your child? Like, I think that's the humanistic aspect that we're not really addressing enough. I know what the laws say. I mean, not all of them. I've heard a lot of things what the laws say, but like, what's the process that we need to take as far as regarding communicating with legislators and getting things? Because like, I just look at it like, I say a father's love. Like, I feel like I don't love my child no less just because I'm a man. Like that's demoralizing for somebody to tell you when you can see a child, when you can see a child, and in fact, you got to prove that somebody's unfit. So again, it's just divisiveness for the whole long-term aspect of the co-parenting relationship. And, I just feel like we need more, we need more rights as fathers, because I do agree that the 50-50 thing would be a fair thing coming into a situation because, what makes you more fit than me? Now, granted, I believe in different seasons of the life, it may be better for the child to be more with the mom as opposed to the dad. But I would like to see more maturity in the way the parents handle things, but more law supporting that. Because if I'm operating from a standpoint of privilege, it don't benefit the mom to let the father see the child more.
See, I disagree with you a whole lot. And maybe because I'm a family lawyer and I've been doing this for like 20 years, but I have plenty of clients, male clients, who actually have custody of their kids. Plenty of them. And it just depends on what the facts of the case is. I mean, every case is different. All the facts are different for each case. But I will say this, you have to be a lot more proactive in terms of what your rights are. Okay. The same rights that mothers have are the same rights that dads can have as well. You just got to show up and ask for it.
You got to show up, you got to fight, and you got to pay.
But based on what?
No, hold on, because I'm not done. You both can have the same equal rights, okay? Now, if you're talking about the time you spend with the kids,
that's what I'm talking about.
Well, that part, like I said, the expanded SPO is addressing that. But if you want to talk about, rights to make medical decisions, rights to make dental, invasive surgical, rights to make educational decisions, you have just as much right to have those rights regarding your child as the mom does. You just have to ask for them. You have to fight for them. You have to demand that you get them. A lot of times men don't realize that they can demand to have these rights, and so they don't. And then they end up not having them. And then later on, you're wondering, well, why is she making that decision without telling me? Or why is she doing this and I'm not doing it? Because you didn't stand up to do it in the very beginning.
But why should a man have to fight for that?
Yeah.
He should
already. A woman has to fight.
She doesn't have to fight for that. She's already given those rights.
No, she's not. No, she's not.
So unless she's proven unfit. Unless she's proven unfit.
No, she's not. Because it also depends on the situation. Okay, number one, if you guys are married and you have a child while you're married, you're both presumed to be joint parents, correct? I mean, let's say you divorce and go your separate ways or whatever. You're both going to be still presumed to be joint parents, joint managing conservators.
Yes, ma'am.
And just like you were raising this child together before you got divorced, and you had the same rights when you were together before you got divorced, you're going to have those same rights, especially when you get divorced.
Excuse me, who would the child stay with?
It depends on who's going to fight. It depends on what happens with the divorce, because the dad is going to have just as much right to fight for that child as the mom does. Now, I will tell you that a lot of courts will look at, okay, who's been the primary caregiver of this child during your marriage? Like, who's the one who was primarily taking this kid to the doctor? Who's the one who was primarily, going up there to the school, having these parent-teacher conferences, going up, child is sick. Who's the one who's primarily taking care of the child?
How do you prove that?
Because you both are kind of coming in on equal footing.
grounds.
Yeah. So, and really and truly, no one parent is any better than the other.
Right.
Both of you are going to be fit parents.
Right.
And so a lot of times, and those are really ideal situations for your shared custody.
Right.
Because
Correct.
essentially you've been sharing custody all this
The
child's
time.
life anyway. You're just
Agreed.
now getting a divorce and going your separate ways.
Facts.
The problems come in when you are not married. Your boyfriend and girlfriend, whatever, hooked up, one night stand, whatever the case may be, but you weren't married to begin with. And so you have a situation now where, as a guy, you got to not only prove that you are the child's biological father, because you're an alleged father, because you're not married. And if you're married, that would make you a presumed father. But if you're married, that would make you a presumed father. But if you're not married, then essentially you're an alleged father, unless you sign an acknowledgement of paternity at the hospital, which would make you an acknowledged father. Because essentially what you're saying is I don't need a DNA test. I know this baby is mine. I'm gonna go and sign this paperwork, and I'm gonna say I'm the child's father. Okay. So now that's where you are. And so either you're going to go and open up an order where you guys, lay out your rights and duties with regards to this child, or you just gonna not go and do anything. And, maybe some years go by and there's no order in place, right? You're not under an order to pay child support. You're not under an order to have visitation. You're not under an order to start making decisions for this child. So you kind of live under that. And then at some point, maybe you decide, okay, well, wait a minute. I want to get rights to my child, because maybe one day you go over and you want to see your kid and she's saying, nope, he gonna stay here with me. Then that's when you decide, okay, well, what can I do? How do I go about getting rights to my child? And so then you file this what we call a suit affecting parent-child relationship, which is a SAPSR case essentially. And so what that does is it lays out, okay, where's this child gonna live? Who's gonna be the one to determine where this child primarily resides?
But that's scary, because
no, because you should do it at the very beginning. I did. It's what you should do.
So for the first 2 or 3 months, I got 3-4 times a week whenever I wanted to. Then all of a sudden, when she was upset, it stopped.
Which
so then
is why
it took
you get
time
an order in place. That's the main reason to get an order in place.
Before the first 6 months of the baby's life, before my daughter's life, we were in court, but then she'd been with her for 6 months. Didn't let me see it for that last 3 months of that thing. So
but
then
here's
they
the deal, Brian. You had just as much right to this child as she did. You the one that let her go home with the baby from the hospital. You had just as much right to this child as she did. Neither one of y'all had greater rights over the other.
I couldn't have took the baby.
Why
home.
You couldn't?
Legally,
that would have been problematic. She was breastfeeding, so of course I want to do what's best for the baby.
And put it in a bottle.
Yeah, but then if the police come to my house, I do something like that.
What the police gonna do? It's a civil matter. Police is gonna say, you know what? Y'all need to work this out in family court.
I called the police for a civil matter and got jacked up in my house and assaulted.
Because I don't know about all that, but
no lie.
When you're dealing with these kids, it's a civil matter.
How the court gonna look at me if I do that?
How does that work? Baby's born, and we don't agree on anything. We just start pulling on the feet, and she start pulling on the head. I mean,
no, that's not how it works. I mean, what I'm saying to you is that when you guys aren't married, okay,
that's where the complication comes in.
That's kind of where the complication comes in. But you have to also realize neither one of y'all have orders in place. Okay. Neither one of you all have any greater rights to this child than the other one does. And that's the whole reason why you go into court, so you can get a court order in place.
Absolutely.
Because theoretically, you can go by, visit with the child, decide you're going to take this child to Louisiana and do whatever, and mama can't do not damn thing about it.
The judge is going to be crazy if you do something like that.
No, because neither one of y'all, if both of y'all are parents of this child, you both have the rights to have this child. You don't have an order in place that tells you or tells the court this parent has a greater right over the other.
That were in the process of getting divorced, and they did that, and the husband was a officer, and he did that when the baby was 2 weeks old. Okay. They put an emergency order and went and took the baby from him, and
then there was more going on, because what emergency order are they going to put into place?
They said the baby was 2 weeks old and he couldn't get the baby milk, and then
that's not an emergency.
Decision.
But that's not an emergency order. You can't.
We're considered an emergency order, by the way.
Well, so when you see the Amber Alert, are you saying when you see the Amber Alerts? That's generally a situation where CPS has custody of the child. The parents have come by to visit, and somebody snatched the child up and left.
Is that right?
Oh, damn.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah. And every now and then, of course, and I'm sure that the same thing would apply if, say, for instance, you have a visitation order in place, or you have some type of custody order in place, and the parent is taking the child off, and didn't bring the child back. But generally, the Amber Alerts are when CPS is involved, because the state has custody of the child, not the parents. So that's kind of how that works. But
we're going to take a quick commercial break, and we're going to hit some more topics. Hope you guys are liking this podcast show. This is great matters that a lot of fathers and women want to hear answers to. We'll be right back in a few minutes. Hey, guys, welcome back. We are here at Whiskey Talk, and we have Brian, Chad, Nicole, and Levi. We are going to do a second segment of family law. Father's rights, and we've been very interesting topics about shared custody, about child support, who's supposed to pay child support, why men are forced to pay child support, why is who decides or who have the kid, the woman or the man, and why is it just the woman have the decision rights, rebirth rights. And so we just covering a lot of different things right now, and I'm just really enjoying this conversation, especially we having a very, very famous family lawyer in the building. Won a lot of cases in Houston, Texas. Know all the judges in Houston. Just we're around it.
Having Nicole on this platform, I want to take advantage of it and ask her two questions. especially since she's in family law. So I'm pretty sure she has just a wealth of knowledge. And so when it comes to reproductive rights, and when it comes to a woman deciding if she should have a child, be a mother or not, do you think she should have those rights?
Of course.
So, and I agree. I don't think a woman should be forced if she's not ready. So in the case where it's a man and he's not ready to be a father, do you think he should have the right to opt out of financial responsibility, meaning child support, having to financially support that child if he's not ready? That would be equivalent to the options that women have, like abortion, adoption. So do you think men should have those reproductive rights also?
But I don't know that that's necessarily a reproductive right. I mean, we're talking about the difference between actually carrying a child and all that comes with that versus financially
for 18 to 20
child.
Years.
Right.
That man is on the hook.
I understand. And every person thinks differently about it. I have my own personal opinion about what I would do, but I can't speak for every other woman out there. Right.
I just want you to, I guess you can take yourself, your personal opinion out of it, but just look at it from an equality standpoint. If this woman has a right to opt out of motherhood or being a mother, regardless if she was reckless having sex, we all know that, when you have sex, two things are possible: disease or pregnancy. That's a fact. But we all, take those risks. So knowing the risk, and she still decides.
You have those conversations before you have the sex about, you have STDs and you want a baby. Nobody's doing that, right?
Right. But knowing the risks, and, this woman still chooses to have sex, ends up getting pregnant. Should she still have the right to, opt out for adoption, abortion? You said yes. So also, through the lens of equality, you got a man right here. He was just like that woman. They both decided to have sex, and he's not ready. He has his whole future ahead of him.
So essentially what you're saying is if she opts into motherhood, he should have the right to opt out of fatherhood if he's not ready.
Correct. Do you think that's fair?
Depends on the individuals. Depends on what their views are on it. I mean,
No. As from a equality standpoint, just like what's fair. If I was to just stand up and slap Chad.
But I think you're comparing apples to oranges. I don't know how that is necessarily. I mean,
it's the consequences of having.
And I guess I understand
unprotected
what you're saying.
sex,
because
right?
I guess if
there's
a mother,
no consequences for a woman if she gets pregnant and she doesn't want to have it, because she can have an adoption, utilize the safe haven law, or give it up, or have an abortion.
But 9 times out of 10, I think for most women, if they go through the whole process of having a child and carrying this child for all those months, but I don't think they're really going to be so gung-ho to choose adoption. Okay?
But we're just talking about equality, the choices after conception. If the woman wants to have it, she can have it. If she doesn't want to have it, she doesn't have to. No matter what she did, she doesn't have to deal with those consequences. What about that man? I don't know if you have any brothers, any male best friends. What about the equality for men? Like, it's a no-brainer when
you're probably not going to have those same rights. I mean,
well, if
our society and our system is not designed to give you those rights or to give you that option.
But why would you give it to the woman?
Because she's the one carrying the baby.
So she has.
That's her gift.
So she has more of the power and responsibility?
At least for the first 9 months, she does.
Well, if she has 100% of the decision making, 100% control of everything,
while the baby's being carried,
correct,
or not carried,
and choose in the choice to have it, if she has 100% say so, 100% power in the choice to have a child, to choose to have a child, then she should have 100% responsibility of that decision. That man doesn't have 100%. He doesn't have any percent when it comes to the decision making.
You're right.
Who's making that decision?
I agree.
When that man doesn't want to have that child, he's looked at as, oh, he's a deadbeat. Oh, you need to step up, or but when that woman chooses to abort her own child, and it is what it is. I support women being able to be in control of their reproductive rights. If they choose to have an abortion, cool. If they don't, cool. You do what you want to do. You do what's in the best for your future.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, what about this man? You don't get to control that man's future. You can control your future. It's all about equality.
But I think that's kind of where that conversation comes in about the whole, look, I'm planning on having this baby. Do you want to be a part of this child's life or do you not? Do you want to be financially supportive or do you not?
Well, I think like he touched earlier, and people, I've even had a situation where I was 100% honest before I even had sex with this woman about what I wanted, what I didn't want, and she agreed to it. In the case of an unplanned pregnancy, that she would have an abortion. I told her, I don't know how many times before we even had sex, I say, look, you way too young. I mean, all it would be is sex. I don't want anything with you. Do you understand that? Yes, I do not want any kids with you. If you were to get pregnant, you would have to have an abortion. I don't want any kids. She said, I agree. Do you think she kept her word? Now, it was dumb of me too, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? I was irresponsible also because I know better.
Yeah.
But I did have that conversation just to kind of make a point to what you're saying. You can be mature and have these conversations with these women, but at the end of the day,
it's a decision.
Emotion, also takes over. And the decision is still theirs. So what protects the man?
So I want to collaborate on that because I've never had the opportunity to say my story. But I think, and it's so true. So I'm in a child support system, never been in a child support system, got an 18-year-old son. I have a 8-year-old son that we was in a relationship, and I told her very specifically, I don't want a kid. She knew what I was going through with my older child's mother. She said, look, Chad, at some point, you're going to have to trust me. You're going to have to trust me. I don't want you to have your kid. I would get an abortion. I'm taking a pill. So any kind of condescension I'm already doing, I'm already aware. I say, cool. She said, just take the glove off and let's start having unprotected sex. And I'm like, it's a lot of trust I'm putting in this woman right now. But at the end of the day, what is love without trust? What is a relationship without trust? Right? You can't have a healthy marriage without trusting your partner. Right? So I began to trust. The moment I let my guard down, she stung me. Immediately after she got pregnant, she sent me a text message with a hologram or ultrasound and says, I know what we talked about, but don't make me stop this baby's heartbeat. I said, oh shit, I've been bamboozled.
Or maybe she changed her mind.
No, because she already had a miscarriage before me in another previous relationship. So she wanted the child. Matter of fact, she even made comments if we had a child together, we're going to raise this child up together. We'll have birthdays and stuff and blah, blah. And I said, good, that sounds good, but I don't want no kids. I'm good.
Yeah, but she was already having that conversation. Then that should have been clue number one.
If that ever happens, right? We got married and we started raising a child. That's cool. Look, she was singing me the blues. She sold me some wolf tickets like a mug, right? At the end of the day.
But you bought them. So.
I sure did. I did buy them because your word is your bond. You can't come back and sign and verbally make a contract agreement that you're not going to do something and go back and renege. To me, that doesn't work. I mean, for me personally. So I feel like with Levi saying, if she going to take that route and do it, then look, she should have full responsibility of that child. You raise that child up on your own. This is what you want. You wouldn't consider my feelings or even give me the option. Give me the option. Most women say this all the time to a man. Give me the option of what I'm getting involved into. You didn't give me that option. You took that, you stole my option. And now I'm paying a dear cost for your decision. Right? And so at the end of the day is I'm here 8 years later, having seen my child for one whole weekend, never had a custody weekend. I've only had a 2-hour visiting rights for 3 years, had to fly to Georgia to go meet at a park to see for 2 hours and fly back. Part of the original order. After 3, it turned to a standard order. Did she give me that child? Never. Did he ask to speak with me? Yes. How many times I went out there to the contract location? 20 times. All these individual violations. But I, in the real $8,000, they about to throw me in jail.
But shouldn't that be the stuff that makes a parent unfit because that's not in the best interest of the child? Because like from a mental health standpoint, you know, we think about the trauma from abandonment, you know, questioning different things about parenting and how somebody may feel. But when you look at situations like this, look at the lasting effects of fatherlessness or motherlessness or seeing negative interactions between your parents or you have an expectation of seeing your dad or wanting and longing to see your father and you're not able to do that. The psychological damage that does, it lasts a really, really long time. And that's really deep embedded with trauma. And then you're looking at, you know, the cycle continuing a lot of times with people as they get older. So, I mean, everybody's talking about mental health. Let's really talk about mental health. I mean, when we talk about what makes somebody unfit, granted, I know everything can't be case by case basis because it's not, you know, everybody, they want a cookie cutter that's how they want to do things. I think that's why there's so much indiscretion and so many people unhappy. But man, I just keep going back to the humanistic aspect. You know, we ask about is somebody unfit and the guidelines between when people ask a lot of times, it's like, man, you know, everybody ain't gonna be a crackhead or, you know what I'm saying, or something super extreme. But let's look at the extremities of withholding a child from their parent. Let's look at the emotional trauma that happens from the parent and from the child. And then like, you ain't seen your child so long. Now imagine how the relationship has been stifled if your child came to live with you now or trying to even establish a relationship with your child. You know, that's very traumatic. Like that's really, really traumatic. And there's so much data to support that within the systems. Like I'm in the schools. I'm seeing these little boys that don't see their dads. You know what I'm saying? Or they don't see their mom. Like the kids living in RTCs, resident treatment facilities, or the group homes. Like this stuff is extremely traumatic. And unless we get to the root of the issue, like the human heart, like people are really just doing some really evil things because they got attitude. Because we talk a lot about laws, but we don't talk about the emotional aspect of how people feel when they don't get what they want or they know they have power over somebody to do something.
And I also say a lot of men get so hurt and battered by not being able to see their child and the work they have to put in and fight through the court system, they just give up. A lot of men just say, you know what, I'm not going to see my child.
People committing suicide.
I don't want to. I know one guy went cuckoo because he couldn't see his child. So the mental play, we can't allow our mental play to get to the point that we can't focus and function in our day-to-day world. So a lot of times men just say, you know what, forget it, screw it. I don't want to be a part of this child life. It's going to be this difficult and going through this much changes and it'll cost me this amount of money.
It's easy to go start another family.
I just really go start another family, let that be, and we'll have this conversation later on in life if you ever want to talk to me.
I'll say this, man, and it's probably not the best thing to do, especially for the child. But just like you said, man, just constantly, you know, fighting to see your child, child support, the mother of the child being spiteful, saying negative things about you to your child, even though you've been there since day one, and then your child is picking up off, you know, the mother's vibe because she's there with her all the time. And you just got all these things, you know, just coming at you. And then just as a father, as a black man, you know, fathers just get as a black man, it's so easy just to say deadbeat black father. So I got that on my back and you just got all that weighing on you and you just trying. And then for your child's mother to turn your kid against you.
That's tough.
And I mean, what do? Do you just like keep putting yourself through all of that? And the thing about it, like you said, like mental health, especially when it comes to men, like people just, like it's like nonchalant. It ain't nothing. He'll be all right. Hey, boy, just do what you do. But you just keep subjecting yourself to all of that harsh treatment. You'll end up killing yourself. I'm telling you because my mind was there. And so you have a choice to make. Do I just keep going, or do I just, man, you know what, stop and just, hey, get my head together and just, hey, man, just let it be.
Let me. So two situations. During COVID, there was a dude. It was on video on West Texas going to see his child. Mom wouldn't give it to him. Got in an altar. Dude shot him with a shotgun and killed him right there. You know. Then there's another situation I seen on Anna Fix My Life, where a dude ain't see his daughter for 23 years because the mother made up. Granted, these aren't every single situation.
Right.
She made up the story that he molested his children for 23 years. Then she wouldn't even apologize. She blamed him for not fighting hard enough.
Mm-hmm. That was the first thing out her mouth.
Yeah, the first thing out her mouth was she blamed him. And I've been through a similar situation, and it's very emotionally taxing. And like I said, just the human heart aspect. There's got to be some kind of accountability for us to be able to parent, just love on our children, because this is our basic human right. I just want to love on my children. Like that's literally like I ain't got to worry about the mother. Like, I just want to love on my children and be able to freely do that. And it's like, think of the anxiety, the separation anxiety from dropping your kid off, not knowing if you're gonna get to see him again for some months, because you might not have another $5,000, $10,000 drop on a retainer, or the fact that I just was getting the hang of parenting, but I only had my child for a day and a half, and now I got to take him back. You know what I'm saying? Like, you don't get a chance to really parent. They rob you of it. And then we wonder why.
And you hope you get a good attorney at that, because if you get a crappy attorney, your whole order could be all jacked up.
Yeah.
You got to pay again.
I mean, all of y'all have had some very some unusual circumstances. I mean, I think I feel like I know a little bit about. Well, I don't know a little bit about your circumstance, but I know about you two. And y'all just got raw deals. And I don't know if it was just previous attorneys you all had or whatever the case may be. But I will definitely say that you all situation is not the norm. I will say that. But because it shouldn't be that hard, and it's not that hard. That's why we have enforcements. That's why we have habeas. So, yeah.
Well, it takes a lot of time, a lot of violations, enforcements in order to get to.
No, it doesn't.
Well, you could do one, but the chances are not good in your favor.
You at least you want to
have a short, continuous record of violations, right?
You want to
but when it comes to enforcing a child and enforcing financial obligations, it's just really different. You can have be $5,000 in a hole and go to jail, right, for 126 days, right, requesting.
Not if you have a good attorney, you won't.
Like I said, not if you have a good attorney. That's if you can afford one. But look, I appreciate you for coming on the show, Nicole. It was I really want to have a part 2 to this, guys, and we can do this again, because this is
Nicole.
This is very, very interesting.
Nicole fix my life. Nicole fix my life.
So how can we reach out to you, Nicole? We want to hire you for an attorney.
I think guys have to be more educated about what their rights are.
Absolutely.
And then don't stop trying to make sure that you get all your rights. And don't let anybody tell you, no, you're not going, you can't have this.
Yeah.
You go get your lawyer and you find somebody who's going to fight for you, and you get what you're supposed to get.
How you find a good attorney? That's the hardest part about it. Especially if you don't have the game. It's all about you give them their money, they just throw your stuff on a case on the back burner, you know what I'm saying? Work on somebody else's. And they know what they say they're going to do. So I think there should be another accountability for attorneys, how to find good attorneys.
Not good attorneys. Good attorneys don't do that. They work your case.
And I'll be honest, I'm not trying to be racist or anything, but I've had more worse experience with Black attorneys than anything.
Okay.
Again, I love my Black people and I love my business people, but I've had more bad experiences working with Black attorneys. I don't get no invoices. I don't get no, I get my money, you know what I'm saying? When I go to the white attorney, they be getting statements. I get every month.
You definitely get statements
every time. Where my money go? Well, I ain't seen no statements. No, it's gone. Yeah, we ate that up. Yeah.
No, you definitely get statements from my office. Yeah.
From y'all? Okay. All right. Okay. So how can we find you,
Nicole?
Nicole?
A whole contract you get all of that. So you can reach out to my office, which is 713-225-1300.
Okay. And what's your law firm called?
Bates Law Firm.
Bates Law Firm.
7026 Old Katy Road, Suite 261.
Right. So, guys, I want you guys to check out Nicole Bates. She's a fantastic family lawyer. There's a lot of great, good attorneys out there, and I wanted to bring one of my hot shooters on a platform. Thank you. I hope we didn't beat you up.
Definitely some good attorneys out there. Definitely. Your attorney is a good attorney.
Yeah, Shelly is good. Shelly is good. I like Shelly. She's a wonderful person. I wish I get Shelly on. Actually, next time I have Shelly on the show too. Yeah. So Shelly, I ain't count you. I'll have you on next show. We can have a little conversation. My time is up. Y'all follow us on Facebook and Instagram, Chad962, Chad Kasi on Facebook and YouTube channel, Chad Kasi YouTube. We have a great day. See you next time. Have a great night.